You know what most people do when someone pulls away? They chase, they over-explain, they beg for clarity, they shrink themselves just to keep the connection alive. But let me tell you something, the moment someone starts avoiding you, the game has already shifted. And if you don't shift with it, you lose. Every time. Here's what you need to understand about avoidant people. They crave connection, but they fear intimacy. They want love, but they run from the responsibility of it. So when they pull away, it's not always about you. It's about what they feel when they're with you and what that says about themselves. Now listen closely. If you want an avoidant to come crawling back begging for your time, your energy, your love, you don't chase. You don't explain. You don't ask them to choose you. You choose yourself. That means you go quiet not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You stay busy not as a performance, but because your life is full without them. You glow differently not to win them back, but because you stopped trying to prove your worth. And guess what happens? The silence becomes louder than your words ever were. The distance makes them wonder what they lost. And the confidence, that's magnetic, unshakable, unforgettable, but this only works if it's real. You can't fake self-worth. You can't pretend to move on while secretly checking your phone every 5 minutes. You have to do the work, heal, grow, expand beyond what they were ever capable of giving you. And when they do come back, because they will, you'll be standing so tall, they'll need to climb to reach your level. That's the power of self-worth. That's how you stop being someone's option and start becoming someone's loss. Don't chase avoidance, it only reinforces their behavior. When someone pulls away, your instinct might be to run after them. To ask why, to seek closure, to prove your worth in their life. But the truth is, every time you chase someone who is avoiding you, you're training them. You're teaching them that it's okay to disappear. That they can withdraw, ignore, shut down, and you'll still be there, waiting. You'll still answer the call. You'll still hold the door open. And that behavior, it gets repeated. Because on some level, the avoidant now knows they can keep you close without ever giving you what you truly need. They feel safe in their distance. They control the pace, the contact, the connection. And you, the one who loves harder, you keep adjusting, hoping that they'll come around, but they won't, not like that. You see, avoidants are wired to feel overwhelmed by closeness. So the more you pursue, the more they pull away. It becomes a cycle. You reach out, they retreat. You express emotion, they shut down. You open up, they build walls. And before long, you start questioning yourself. You wonder if you're too much, too needy, too emotional, but you're not. You're just trying to love someone who doesn't know how to receive it, and chasing them only deepens their fear. It confirms to them that love means pressure, that intimacy means expectation. So what's the shift? You stop chasing, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You give them space not as a punishment, but as a boundary. You show them that connection is a two-way street, that your time, your energy, your presence, these things are valuable, and they must be earned, because the moment you stop running after them, something changes. They start to notice the silence. They start to feel the absence. They realize that you were the one who always reached out, who always tried, who always stayed. And in that realization, the dynamic shifts. But it only shifts when you stop feeding the pattern, when you stop rewarding the distance with attention, when you stop teaching them that avoidance gets them closeness. This is where your power is. Not in how hard you try to hold on, but in how deeply you know when to let go. Avoidant behavior is usually rooted in fear of intimacy, not your worth. That's a truth most people miss. When someone pulls away from you, it's easy to take it personally. To think, if I were more attractive, more interesting, more lovable, maybe they'd stay. But their distance isn't always about you asterisk. It's about the stories they carry. It's about the walls they built long before you ever showed up. Avoidants often learned, somewhere along the way, that closeness equals danger, that vulnerability leads to pain, that love comes with conditions, or worse, with abandonment. So when someone gets too close emotionally, physically, spiritually, their reflex isn't to lean in. It's to pull back, to create space, to regain control. They might say they need time. They might suddenly become cold or distant. They might even end things altogether without a clear explanation. And when that happens, You might feel like you did something wrong. But the truth is, you're standing in a place they're afraid to go. You've reached a level of connection they're not ready to handle. So instead of embracing it, they retreat, not because you're unworthy, but because intimacy triggers a part of them that feels unsafe. You could be the most loving, patient, emotionally intelligent person, and it still wouldn't change that fear inside them, because fear of intimacy isn't healed by perfection. It's healed by choice, by their willingness to look at their patterns, to confront their discomfort, to stop running from love when it finally arrives. And until they make that choice, no amount of chasing, fixing, or loving will make them stay. So don't internalize their fear as a reflection of your value. You're not too much, you're not too needy, you're simply someone who desires real connection, and that's not a flaw, that's strength. But you can't build something lasting with someone who fears the very thing you're trying to create. You need courage to love, yes, but it takes equal courage to receive love, to sit in the stillness of intimacy and not run from it, to let someone in without shutting down, and avoidance, unless they've done the work, haven't built that muscle yet. So remember this, their avoidance is not proof of your inadequacy. It's just the echo of their own unresolved story. You didn't cause it, and you can't cure it. You can only choose whether to keep knocking on a closed door, or walk towards someone who's not afraid to open it. Pull back with dignity, not drama. When someone starts to pull away from you, the temptation is to make noise, to demand answers, to cry, to fight, to make them feel the weight of what they're doing. You want to remind them what they're losing. You want them to see how much they've hurt you, and that's a human reaction. But here's the truth: drama doesn't bring clarity. It clouds it. It turns your pain into performance. It hands your power over to someone who didn't know how to hold it in the first place. You don't need to prove anything in that moment. Not how much you cared, not how loyal you were, not how broken you feel. You need to protect your peace, because your peace is your power. Pulling back doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you've recognized that your energy deserves respect, that love should never feel like begging. That if someone doesn't see your value, you're not going to light yourself on fire just to keep them warm. Dignity is quiet. It doesn't send 10 texts in a row. It doesn't post quotes online hoping they'll get the message. It doesn't try to guilt someone into coming back. Dignity walks away when the silence becomes too loud to ignore. It knows that sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. When you choose dignity over drama, you make space for yourself, worth to breathe again. You stop negotiating your value. You stop trying to convince someone to love you better. You simply step back and let the silence do what words never could, because the way you exit says more about your strength than how loudly you beg to stay. The one who walks away with grace is always remembered more than the one who clings in chaos. So let them wonder, let them feel your absence, let them sit with the echo of your presence now gone. You don't need to punish them. Life will do that in its own time. You just need to honor yourself. Every second you don't chase, every message you don't send, every moment you stay still, you're telling the universe, I'm ready for more, I deserve more, and you do. So when you feel the urge to react, to lash out, to make a scene, pause, breathe, and remember who you are, because pulling back with dignity is not weakness. It's the highest form of self-respect. Invest in your own life, become too full to beg. Too often, we pour so much into someone else that we forget to pour into ourselves. We make them the center of our world. We wait for their messages. We adjust our schedules for their convenience. We lose ourselves in the hope that they'll choose us. But here's the truth: begging isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. It shows up in the way we overgive, in the way we tolerate mixed signals, in the way we lower our standards just to keep someone around. And we tell ourselves it's love, but real love doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't ask you to put your life on hold. It doesn't leave you feeling empty while you try to keep someone else full. So what's the shift? You start investing in in your passions, in your peace, in your people. You build a life so rich, so exciting, so deeply fulfilling that anyone who walks away doesn't leave a hole, just a gap that gets filled by your growth. You start reading more, you take care of your health, you pursue the goals you've been putting off, you fill your days with purpose, not with waiting, because the moment you stop chasing someone else's validation, you start creating your own. You begin to see that your worth was never in their hands. It was always in how you see yourself. And when you become full, truly full, you no longer beg, not for time, not for love, not for attention. You stop trying to force someone to see your value because you know your value. You stop asking for scraps because you're already fed. This is where your power comes from. When your life is filled with things that light you up, you become magnetic. People feel it. They see the difference. You walk differently. You speak with certainty. You no longer ask, why didn't they choose me? Because you're too busy choosing yourself. And the ones who couldn't see your worth, they start to notice what they missed. When you stopped trying to convince them, that's what happens when you invest in yourself. You stop negotiating for crumbs. You become the feast, and only those who can show up with equal energy get a seat at your table. You are not here to prove you're enough. You are here to become so full that love becomes something you share, not something you beg for. Confidence and silence create curiosity and regret, not words, not explanations, not chasing, begging, or convincing. When someone pulls away, your first instinct might be to fix it with words, to clarify, to plead your case, to ask what went wrong and why they changed. But often, the more you speak, the less they hear. The more you explain, the more they retreat. That's because true power doesn't come from over-communicating. It comes from presence, and sometimes the strongest presence is your absence. Silence isn't empty, it's loud. It speaks volumes when used at the right time. It forces the other person to sit with their choices, to wonder what you're thinking, to feel the weight of your missing energy. And when that silence is paired with confidence, not bitterness, not passive aggression, just quiet strength, something happens. You become unforgettable. They start to replay conversations. They wonder why you haven't reached out. They think about how you handled everything with so much grace, because in a world that reacts emotionally, unpredictably, and desperately, calm confidence stands out. It's not about playing games. It's about knowing that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. It's about trusting that if someone truly values you, they'll feel your absence more than your presence could ever prove. Confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't chase validation. It simply moves forward, knowing that nothing good ever leaves your life without something better coming in. And here's the thing: people remember how you made them feel. But they also remember how you responded when they tried to dim your light. If you meet their distance with chaos, they label you as unstable. But if you meet it with composure, they feel it, they regret it. Because while they were expecting drama, they got silence. While they were ready for guilt trips, they got nothing but calm. And that calm, it haunts them, because it shows them you didn't need them to complete you. You were whole all along. You just gave them a front row seat, and they didn't know how to handle it. So when you go quiet, do it with purpose, not to manipulate, not to punish, but to protect your energy. To remind yourself that your value doesn't increase or decrease based on someone else's ability to recognize it. Let your silence ask the questions your voice never needed to. Let your confidence be the answer they weren't expecting. Because nothing makes someone look back harder than realizing they lost something they can never replace. So now you know, you don't need to fight for someone who's not fighting for you. You don't need to chase love that runs from truth. You don't need to speak louder to be heard. Your silence is enough. Your confidence is the closure, and your self-worth is the answer. Walk away with peace, stand tall with clarity, and remember, when you choose yourself fully, the right people won't need to be convinced. They'll recognize your value and rise to meet it. Because real love never needs to be begged for, and you were never meant to beg. You were born to be chosen.